we have already discussed about the industrial relation system and team working, little bit about team working in our earlier discussions. Today we are going to discuss participative management and team working in organizations, which is an extremely important part of managing employees in the organizations of today. Let us see what are the issues that we are going to discuss today. First, we will discuss what is participative management, then what are the prerequisites for participative management, and in this we will discuss the individual factors, the social and cultural factors, and the interest of managers. When we are looking at participative management, it is many things at the same time. It is a philosophy that demands that organizations make decisions keeping in view others, and the organization's decisions are made in such a way that the input and the responsibilities are actually extended to the lowest level of employees, or in fact all employees in decision making. The purpose of participative management thus is to ensure that the effective decision makings are done for all people, and perhaps by the right type of people for the right type of situation. We also talk about participative management and how to achieve it in terms of empowerment and in terms of involvement of employees. Empowerment means how to achieve participative management by empowering the employees. It is a mechanism by which the responsibility is shared and it is rested in the teams or the individuals. Involvement can be either by people, by the managers, or by other employees, and the mechanism actually is to ensure the appropriate input in decision making by all employees, including manager and the lower level employees. So, in participative management, the issue that we are trying to look at is how to involve people at every level, so that better decisions could be achieved and better performance standards could be achieved. So, how to achieve participative management thus calls for many situational perhaps analysis. Thus, empowerment and involvement become the important building blocks, as we have discussed, for participative management philosophy. And to achieve participative management, we have to design systems in which we have people coming forward with their forthcoming with their ideas, and they have great enthusiasm to actually participate in decision making. So, why participative management? We have tried to answer this question in certain ways, but let us look at this issue once again. The traditional method of managements are perhaps well, we can say inefficient or not really very much matching with the expectation of people today in organizations, because today everyone expects that I should be asked about whatever is going on around me, or whatever affects me, or whatever the organization is trying to do. So, in view of this, we can say that the traditional methods are actually not very efficient, and many companies are actually seeing market share and the size that diminish due to the loss of the quality standards and increased military of unhappiness in the workforce, and of course the competitors which increase, and because of this the organizational effectiveness gets affected. So, in other words, we can say to increase satisfaction, to increase effectiveness, to increase effectiveness of the organization, and perhaps to achieve overall quality standards, we need participative management. We have talked about the satisfaction, the issue of satisfaction, issue of quality and productivity, the issue of commitment and involvement in some of our earlier lectures. So, we can relate those issues here to understand that participative management is the requirement for today. Again, to look at why we need participative management, we have to understand that increasing the effectiveness of the organization, okay, that we can't actually achieve the increasing effectiveness of the organization without understanding the human resources of the company. If we have to really achieve the competitive advantage, then we have to involve people in decision making. And that is why it becomes, perhaps the need of the hour that we must have participative management. Participative management also provides the opportunity to share the responsibility, risk and success, which we do jointly. So all groups are involved in decision making. And here once again, we are talking about the functions of managers. In the earlier lectures, we have discussed about the functions of the managers, and we have seen that the manager has to actually comply with so many situations and so many functions, and optimization of resources which are financial, technical and human resources. The three major resources we are talking about here, which we have also spoken in the beginning of the course. These are the three important resources which we have to optimize, and the achievement of goals in terms of profits, satisfaction of employees, effectiveness of the organization and the survival and growth of the organization. So, if we are trying to look at the effectiveness, survival and growth of the organization, then we have to understand that participative management is one of the important we can say the systems through which we can achieve these to actually achieve the better organizations and the competitive advantage, we can say. And once again, we come back to the some of our earlier discussions where we were talking about the managing, and here we are saying that the participative management is also a part of the management functions which we have talked about, that planning, organizing, leading, controlling and motivating. In our first lecture, first chapter, yeah, we were discussing about managing, and so some of these functions also are important for participative management. So, this brings us to that when we are looking at participative management, what are the different parameters that we have to understand? We have to understand organization's characteristics as to what type of organization is it. Is it a small industry, large industry, medium industry, an organization of an entrepreneur? Is it an industry that is a marketing firm, an educational firm or manufacturing firm, or what is the business like? Is it owned by government? Is it a private sector? All these are organizations characteristics we are talking about, which will of course include also the type of workflow that the organization has. That means, is it a work that changes every day? Is it a work that is like in the process plant? Is it a work that is a design type, designed, or is it a manufacturing organization? Is it a consultancy organization? Then what type of people are working there? Do we have literates, semi-literates starting point, or do we have the graduates as the starting points, as we have in some of the software firms? So, participative management, when we are talking about, has to take into consideration many factors about the organization's characteristics. Then we have the managerial culture, the type of attitude that the manager has. Is it participative culture? Of course, is one thing, but then there are different types of attitudes and the philosophy, the traditions that an organization might have. So, that makes the managerial culture in an organization. Then the type of decisions that we make, are these the decisions at the level of technical decisions? Are we talking about the decisions which relate to human relations, the designing, or at the level of policy making, or at the conceptual level? So, what decisions are we trying to make? And so, the managerial culture of participative management becomes an important input in the way a manager has to actually perform in the organization. And this is what is the discussion that we are having today about the managerial culture. And further, we are going to discuss the managerial culture of today. So, participative management, as we are understanding, is talking about the organizations, their structure, and the management which is still developing, and perhaps this is in the it's beyond perhaps the systems approach, in the sense, or we have to create the new systems for that. And no single approach of organization perhaps is the final word for us, because the management cannot provide answer to everything. We have to design a new approach for every situation, including participative management. And participative management follows a contingency approach as a result of all those factors, because the management cannot give the final answer to something. So, we use contingency approach, and we have to be looking at perhaps proactively sometimes, and we have to have a set of variables and their interactions. So, the contingency approach that we have discussed in the beginning of this course, if you recollect the first few lectures, we were talking about that management has number of approaches, and contingency approach is the one in which we are trying to see the situation and the number of variables which might impact the overall functioning of an organization. So, the contingency approach to human resource management is important for managing an organization, particularly if we are looking at the concept from participative management point of view. So, this may be viewed as an extension of the systems approach, which highlights the possible means of perhaps talking about the overall system in the forms of organizational structure and the systems of management. And so, the most appropriate management system is therefore dependent upon the contingencies of the situation for each situation, we can say, or each organization, we can say, even each perhaps a department, we can say. So, many operational problems in organizations, these relate to the nature of human behavior, the people, and perhaps situation and technology and so on. So the factors which are related to participative management that we can see could be individual factors, organizational factors, social factors, the national factors, technical factors. So, there are many types of factors which will actually determine the style of managing, including the style of participative management about which we are talking today. So, at the level of individual factors, we have motivation, we have learning, we have perception, we have involvement, we have satisfaction, all these factors are there. We are also talking about the awareness, expectation, interests and creativity. All these factors will actually matter at the individual level. We will further extend our list and we will give you further factors about the individual level factors. Factors which are related to participative management at the organizational level. We can see that the managerial attitudes are important, organizational climate is important, organizational philosophy, leadership styles, communication, type of technology, training and development, business stability, nature of work, all these are important, about which I was talking to you a short while ago. So, the factors related to participative management have to be understood also within the social parameters or the country level factors, and these are the social values which are there in a society. For example, in India there are different types of social values. They say that in countries like India we have collectivistic values, and other places they maybe have more individualistic values. In addition to this, there are number of types of social values that we may have in India or our country or many other countries in fact. Then the socioeconomic status, because socioeconomic status has direct impact on the work motivation of people. So, that might also have some effect on the way people will actually participate in the exercises of participative management. Education and awareness, all of us know that more aware and educated people are, more perhaps contributions they can make in the overall functioning of an organization. Then the population characteristics in terms of need structure. Population characteristics in terms of we can say in terms of gender, in terms of education, in terms of technical training that different countries have. So, that becomes very important also for any type of management strategy, including participative management. For example, in some countries the number of people are much lesser in terms of the population I am talking about, the total overall population. There is so much shortage of people, the hands for working, that they are looking forward to people from other developing countries to come and perhaps make contributions there. Also in terms of certain technologies, we may be very good in certain sectors, and other countries are looking forward to that we should help them in certain sectors. So actually the population characteristics have got an important role to play in terms of overall management in a particular country. Then of course the political ideology, the type of support that we get, the political ideology of a particular country, that becomes very important. Government's involvement and the overall development and concern of the individual characteristics, the kind of we can say the laws that we have, the legislation for the working organizations that we have, and its implementation, the way we are having the laws and its implementation, it becomes very important. Not not that, see, for example, participative management we are going to talk about little bit. I will talk about this, in the later part of this discussion. But we have number of legislations, even though it is not a law really. Participative management is not really a law, but there are we can say the guidelines, or there are certain provisions also. Perhaps we have started that from our constitution. We have been talking about participative management. So these are still remain as only the guidelines, particularly in our country. But when we come to different countries, we may find that there are many institutionalized systems of participative management that we will see later. This brings us to that participative management approach. Then if we look at the concept, these are actually multidisciplinary. Why? Because we are talking about the social system, we are talking about economic system, we are also talking about the social, psychosocial, psychological system which relates to participative management. At this point, I would like to show you a case study of one of the organizations where we interviewed a manager from one of the organizations to see that how managers of today they view participative management.